everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to make this set of kind of Jack and Sally inspired, like Nightmare Before Christmas Jack and Sally pendants made from polymer clay and UV resin. So let's get started. So I'm beginning here with some gold Primo Sculpey that I've folded and passed through the pasta machine in the same direction multiple times. And what that's accomplishing is getting all of those different little mica pigments light up, or mica pigments, and then I'm just going through with my small ripple blade and slicing through. And this is going to give us a really cool kind of shifty shimmery effect. And then I'm going to pass that through the pasta machine to about the third setting, just to stretch it out. And I'm going to do this for the whole block. This can be done with a lot of the different Primo Effects blocks, like any of the pearls, but some colors are better than others. And so now that I've stretched them out, I'm placing them on a just piece of gold clay that has not been texturized or anything, also passed through on the third thickest setting. And now I'm going to pass it through just onto the thickest setting, just to get everything stretched out a little bit more. And there you can see it really shows off that kind of color shifting. Then I'm using a square little clay cutter. There will be links to all the different tools and materials I'm using here listed down in the video description, so be sure to check those out. But I'm just gonna, all the clay that I had worked with, I'm just gonna cut out as many little squares as I can. Now I'm using Wisteria and Tranquility. The Wisteria is a Primo Sculpey, and the Tranquility is a Sculpey 3, and then this one is Poppy Seed, and that's a Sculpey Souffle. You could use whatever colors that you like, but I've rolled them out and like put two pieces together and then passed them through on the thickest setting to get a kind of thinner striping. Nope, that's not actually what I did here. What I did here is I just mixed them together. So I mixed some of the Poppy Seed into both the Tranquility and the Wisteria to give a little bit of like a tinted black. So I'm going through with a little rectangular cutter, and now I'm going to be stacking them and passing them through the pasta machine on the thickest setting. Though before I do that, I am going to pass them through the pasta machine. Right now they're at the thickest, but I'm going to pass them through probably onto like the third setting, just to get it to, you know, thin out a little bit. An alternative way to doing this would be to just stack them and then roll them through the pasta machine. So it's less about how you get to the end result, it's more about the effective end result. So I'm just alternating the, you know, kind of turquoisey blue with the tinted poppy seed, and then cutting that stack in half and then stacking them on top of each other like that. Now this is like a super messy, lazy way of doing a striped cane, but I wasn't really looking for anything perfect, so I'm just slicing them evenly and then breaking them apart. And then I'm going to stack them on top of, again, on the thickest setting of the pasta machine, just more of that blue. This is going to provide a backing for me to then, you know, I'm going to get all of them placed, roll the air bubbles out, and that's going to give me a backing so that I can pass it through the pasta machine and reduce the design, like kind of, well, rather not reduce, but extend the design. Trimming off that excess. And so you can see it kind of exacerbates, I can't pronounce that word, but it amplifies some of the mistakes, but it also spreads the design a little further, so I can just kind of pick around the worst parts of it. And again, just going through, this time with a circle cutter, removing some little dots, and also cutting out little spots from the poppy seed tinted Tranquility clay. And now I'm going to remove all those little spots out of the way, clean up, and you could save them, I just scrapped them, and then laying it on another piece of backing clay. And then I'm going to use those dark spots that we've cut out and inlay them into the other part. I wish I had thought to use a smaller, like if I could have reduced this design down a little bit smaller, I would have really liked that, but it's not horrible the way it is. But do feel free, if you're following along with this tutorial, to modify it however you wish. So used an acrylic roller to make sure, again, there's no air bubbles, and then I'm just going to go through with that same square cutter and make my little quilt squares that we will then stack in with the rest of the designs that we're making. So now on to our last design. Here I have stacked the Wisteria Primo Sculpey with the poppy souffle, like poppy seed souffle mixed in. And those were about at like to maybe a 1:1 ratio of the dark and light colors. And I have a much thicker layer of the wisteria than I do of the poppy seed, like probably double thickness of wisteria. And then I'm just very carefully trying to make sure I don't trap any air bubbles or distort the design. I'm just going to roll this up on itself. And this is making what's called a jelly roll cane. And it's okay if you've got some weird bits poking out the end, we'll just trim those off, rolling it out a bit, making good contact with everything. And now pulling from the center towards the ends, I'm going to start reducing this cane. Now this made a lot. Fortunately, I plan on making a lot of these, but you could reduce the amount of clay used. But I'm just coming through, trimming off the excess on the end. It does have some usable design in it. And then just trimming off just a couple of inches. That's really all I need for the sake of the tutorial. But just trimming it down and rolling. You can actually use an acrylic slab like how I have here to reduce it down evenly instead of getting little like finger grooves inlaid into it if I'm doing it by hand. And so I'm taking, this was on the thickest setting of my pasta machine, a wisteria with a poppy seed, and then I'm just going to slice pretty thin a whole bunch of these little jelly cane rolls, or jelly roll cane slices. And then I'm using, you could use whatever you like, but I have a porcupine quill, and I'm just using it to pick up very gingerly without distorting the design one of the little slices and then placing it on. And you'll do as much of this as you like. And now progressively I'm going to be passing this through my pasta machine on thinner and thinner settings, and rotating it each time. That way I get an even distortion, or that way I try to get an even distortion at least. And now from here I'm just going to messily cut off some of the excess. And taking this scrap clay, I'm going to pass that through onto its thickest setting. And then use this design as a veneer. I found that's a very effective way of getting a lot of work to go a long way. And put that through the pasta machine one last time, again on the thickest setting. And I'm using that same little square cutter to come through and cut out little texture pieces. So now, again, on a layered over a piece of scrap, I am stacking different quilt squares, kind of like laying them out onto the clay to make a nice little design. And I'm trying to not have them be too, checkerboardy or too, I don't want two that look exactly like each other next to each other. Now here I'm using an old plastic baggie and a heart-shaped cutter, and I am just cutting, like pushing as hard as I can to get it to make full contact through, but by putting the bag over it, it gives us a really nice domed surface. In hindsight, I kind of wish I hadn't done that. Well, I don't mind it for the heart, but I ended up being able to use the outside. So don't hesitate to, if you don't want it with the curved surface, then just don't use the plastic baggie. Cleaning up my edges, but I do like the way that kind of smushes everything really nicely together. And so now I decided to use this extra clay. I'm going to use my ripple blade again to come through and just decoratively cut the edges, because I thought this would be a really great bezel for like doing another, like filling in the heart, the negative space. So there's always something to use scrap material for. Just trimming them carefully. Then mixing out some graphite pearl. Now this is one that does not do that great. I was kind of disappointed in the striping effect on it, but c'est la vie. And so I just roll it in the same direction. I could do a separate video if you guys are interested specifically on this technique, but there are a lot of other really good videos out there. So again, just slicing it with the ripple blade. and then passing it through the pasta machine, and you can see that it's very subtle. I would have actually gotten a much more dramatic effect if I had used silver, I think. So I'm just taking this and stacking it on some clay that I then passed through my pasta machine, again on the thickest setting. But now I'm going to be passing it through, sorry, not on the thickest setting, I actually thinned it down to the 5th setting. So now to thicken it back up, I am just folding it onto itself and making sure there are no popped air bubbles, or no trapped air bubbles rather. If there are any, I'll go ahead and pop them. And I'm going to use my little, I cut on a piece of freezer paper, that way it doesn't get stuck to my work surface, using a fresh spot of scrap baggie. And I'm just going to press down using the same sized cutter. Smoosh. There we go. And so as we pull that out, again, I'm being real careful because I want to make sure that I don't distort it, but I do want it to come out nice and clean. And then we can use our tissue blade or a craft knife or whatever you have on hand to clean up those edges just a little bit more. And all in all, I am pretty pleased with how that came out, and it just settles real nice inside our other bezel. If it doesn't fit well, you can kind of shift it around a bit to get it to fit nicer, but there we are. And then I'll bake both of these. Oh, before baking, I'm just using some more material to kind of give it a nicer backing. And then using some 16 gauge dead soft aluminum, I'm going to go ahead and make a little bit of a bail. That way I can thread this onto a chain. I have much more in-depth tutorials in my wire wrapping playlists here on YouTube on how to do this technique. But yeah, just kind of tucking it. You could use a pre-made glue-on bail or whatever you have, tucking it between the 2 layers, then using a ball stylus to kind of texture it and get the clay to stick around. And then to make it look more on purpose, I just decided to texture the whole background, and that was with an 8mm ball stylus. So now I'll bake it as per the manufacturer's instructions, which I baked it for like 45 minutes at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. And then to finish up the other heart, I'm just doing some little, like, again with the granite pearl, or pewter pearl, I'm not sure, graphite pearl, that's what this one was, sorry. Just rolling out the ends into little snakes. And then just, going off camera, you know, as I do, stylizing that around a little bit. Gonna taper the tip on this one and give it a kind of cute curly cue. This really is, it's sculpting. It's so long as it holds together and looks the way that it, however you like, then you did it correctly. So really let yourself go and get artsy fartsy with this. And then just bloop, spiraling that down a little bit. And then this one's ready to bake. No, it's not. I've got one more step for you guys. I wanted to add in some stitches. I could have used like a chisel tip or something, but I just used what I had on hand. So I'm using this porcupine quill to just add in some little implied stitch marks. Now it gets baked. Whenever it's done cooling, I'm going through, and here I'm using the Tiny Pandora brush on like UV gloss, and I still am not convinced that I'm using this stuff properly because I have never been able to really get results that I was very happy with. I very much prefer the other UV resin that I'll be using, but I keep trying something different each time. I have watched quite a few tutorials, but I'm sure those of y'all who follow along with me can, you know, empathize with sometimes things just don't work out the way they do in the tutorial. So which is why I am also using this UV resin here that is available on Amazon, and it is fantastic. I really like it, especially for pieces like this one here where it has a very uneven surface, because I'm able to pop it into the UV light and get it to start setting up before all of the liquid runs everywhere. Whereas if it's one of the resins that takes like, you know, a full 24 hours to cure, those ones just drip everywhere on me if it's an unlevel surface like this. So you can see I just popped it right into the UV light, and that's how that goes. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. If y'all have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave those down below. Also, if you have any requests for future tutorials, there's a link to my DeviantArt gallery where you can go through and peruse some of my older work that I'm really interested in recreating pieces that I worked on like 8 to 10 years ago and seeing how time has changed the way I do things. But also, I'm always open to completely new tutorial concepts as well. There are links down in the video description to all of my different social media, so if you would like to tag me or share something to my wall, like on Facebook or Instagram, however these things work, I would love to see what you guys are up to, and that's a great way of getting my attention here online. Also, there are links to my Patreon. If you enjoy my free tutorials and would like to support the creation of more of them, please consider joining us over there. I do post things that are available to everyone, whether they're a pledger or not. But the more you pledge, the more you get, and pledges start at just $1, and every little bit goes such a long way for us. But you guys have really helped me to achieve beyond my wildest aspiration. I was like, what's the word? Words are hard, guys, but thank you for bearing with me. But at the time of recording, we're creeping up on 80,000 subscribers, and I could have never, whenever I started my channel, imagined, like, y'all blow my mind. So thank you so much just for being here with me. And again, I do hope that this video was helpful, and there should be something popping up on the screen maybe for like watching more videos. I'm trying to figure out this whole end screen thing, watching more videos, or maybe like subscribing. But also feel free to check out my vlog if you're interested in more of my personal life as well as my weight loss adventure. Also 15 pounds down, woo woo, so that's pretty cool. So till next time, happy crafting. Bye.